Today, we're going to tear apart one of the biggest myths in web performance. We're going to figure out what really makes a website feel fast or, painfully slow. And it all starts with a question I bet you've asked yourself 1,000 times.
Right? It's so frustrating. You're paying for this super fast, top-of-the-line internet connection. We're talking a gigabit pipe that can handle anything you throw at it. And yet, some websites still just crawl. So what gives? Well, that question gets right to the heart of the myth we're about to bust.
You see, the problem is how we even think about speed. For years, we've been told that a bigger number, more megabits per second, means a faster internet. But it turns out, especially for browsing the web, that's just not the whole story. It's actually a pretty misleading assumption.
Okay, let's break this down with a simple analogy. Plumbing. Think of your internet bandwidth as the width of a water pipe. A really wide pipe can move a ton of water all at once. Makes sense. But latency, that's different. Latency is the time it takes for the very first drop of water to travel from one end of that pipe to the other. Now, if that pipe is 1,000 miles long, it doesn't matter how wide you make it, that first drop isn't going to get there any faster. That travel time is a fixed cost.
And hey, this isn't just a cute analogy. The data backs it up completely. This chart comes from a study by one of the creators of HTTP 2.0. And look, it shows that, going from a really slow 1 megabit connection up to 5 makes a huge difference. But after that, the curve just flatlines. Throwing more bandwidth at the problem, going from 5 to 10 megabits or even more, barely moves the needle. The pipe is already wide enough.
But now, look at this. This second chart shows what happens when we lower the latency, that travel time. The improvement is massive, and it's a perfect straight line. Every 20 milliseconds you can cut off that round trip, the page gets noticeably faster. This is our first huge clue. Latency is the real monster here, not bandwidth.
Let's make this totally concrete with a little simulation. So, imagine we're downloading a tiny 20 kilobyte file. In our first test, we've got a slow 2 megabit per second connection and a pretty high latency of 500 milliseconds. Total time, about 1.1 seconds. Okay, now for the second test, let's crank the bandwidth up 500 times to a full gigabit, but we'll keep the latency exactly the same. The result? Our total time is 1.0 second. That's it. An 8% improvement you wouldn't even notice. Why? Because most of that time was spent just waiting for that first drop of water to arrive.
And look, this is the conclusion from the expert himself. To really make the web faster for everyone, we shouldn't be obsessed with wider pipes. We should be obsessed with bringing down the round-trip time, or RTT. This is the big idea that drove the creation of the modern web protocols we use today.
So we've pretty much established that latency is the real bad guy. But where does all this waiting around actually come from? To figure that out, we've got to look at what happens during a single web request.
So before your browser can download even 1 byte of a web page, it has to have this whole little conversation. First, there's the DNS lookup. That's basically like looking up a business in the phone book. Then there's the TCP handshake, which is like dialing the number and going, "Hello? Hi? You there? Yep. Okay, let's talk." All of that back and forth has to happen before you see this blue bar here, which is the actual download.
But here's the kicker. A modern website isn't just one request. It's 100 requests, sometimes more. This thing here is called a resource waterfall for yahoo.com. Every single one of those bars is a separate file, an image, a script, a style sheet, and each one has its own latency tags. It's this complex cascade of conversations all happening at once.
And this is the crime scene. This chart shows us exactly where the time is going. And just look at all that green. All of it. That's time to first byte. It's just waiting for the phone book lookup, waiting for the handshake, waiting for the server to find the file. Now, try to find the blue bars, the actual download time. See them? They're just tiny little slivers.
And here's the nail in the coffin. If you were to look at the bandwidth usage at the bottom of a chart like this, it would be almost completely empty. Our giant gigabit pipe is just sitting there twiddling its thumbs because the browser is constantly stuck in traffic, just waiting for the next conversation to start. We're not limited by bandwidth. We are fundamentally limited by latency, period.
So, the network is one huge bottleneck. But it's not the only one. Once all those little files finally arrive, the browser itself has to figure out how to piece them all together. And that process can create a whole new traffic jam.
This whole process is called the critical rendering path. And the best way to think about it is like a construction crew building a house. The HTML file is the blueprint. It shows where the walls and doors go. The CSS is the interior design plan. Paint colors, furniture placement. And JavaScript is the electrician. And here's the problem. The crew can't start painting the walls if the electrician might show up and decide to move one.
So let's visualize that on the whiteboard. The browser reads the HTML to build the structure, that's called the DOM. It reads the CSS to figure out the styles, that's the CSSOM, then it merges them to figure out what to draw on the screen. But JavaScript can just jump in and change any of that at any time. So the browser has to hit pause on everything, let the JavaScript run its course, just in case it messes with the plan. This is what we call render blocking, and it can bring everything to a grinding halt.
So the big takeaway here is this. You've got to get that design plan, the CSS, to the construction crew as fast as humanly possible. This is exactly why you've probably heard that old web development rule: put your style sheets at the top of the page and your scripts at the bottom. You're trying to let the browser start painting what it can, and you deal with the unpredictable electrician, the JavaScript, later on.
All right, so we've identified our two main villains, network latency and browser rendering. So as engineers, what do we actually do about it? Let's walk through the high-level playbook.
So just to recap, it all boils down to these two things. First, you've got a physics problem, the actual time it takes for signals to fly across the globe. And second, you've got a logic problem, the specific order the browser has to follow to assemble all the pieces of the puzzle.
So the solutions line up perfectly with these problems. First, to fight latency, you use a CDN, a content delivery network. This is just a fancy way of saying you put copies of your files on servers all over the world, which physically shortens the travel distance to your users. Second, you optimize that rendering path, get the CSS to the browser ASAP, and push off any JavaScript that isn't absolutely essential for the initial view. And third, you can actually give the browser a heads up, using little hints to tell it what you're probably going to need next so it can start those conversations early.
And that really brings us to the final point. All the big players, Google, Amazon, you name it, they've all done studies showing that a delay of just 100 milliseconds, literally the blink of an eye, can have a real, measurable impact on revenue. So as we've seen, web performance isn't about having the biggest internet pipe. It's a game of milliseconds. It's a game won by finding and eliminating all those tiny, invisible moments of waiting. Which leaves one big question. How much hidden value are you leaving on the table?